Hey guys, good morning. Today we'll be talking about the latest, newest, and one of the units we've been looking forward to for a very long time, RNL or Rhianna and Luciella. So you're familiar with these two just because of them being originally an artifact for the thief, which is if we look over here, 5-star. They're one of the first 5-star artifacts, and if we look at the conception of E7, we've been looking forward to them being released eventually. And here we have it after like 7 years, approaching 8. And boy oh boy, did they not disappoint in terms of looks, performance, and wow, it's frankly one of the more unique characters we've had so far in epicseven. And if we see that glorious animation right there, it's pretty impressive. So let's look at the characters themselves. So RNL is an Aquarius thief and dark. One thing that makes him outstanding and very oppressive to us normal players, of course, is the fact that their base speed is one of the highest in the game. So if we look at their imprint, on self-imprint or on concentration, they go for crit chance. That's nice that we have a whole number over here. And as for imprint release, they go for attack percent. Of course, you want to get the crit chance over here. Initially, and I'm pretty grateful about it. Smallgate gave us, and of course Super Creative, they gave us the free memory imprints for the first one. And then because they are a boss ML unit, you get to get their imprints for free. Although they do cost like 10 golden transmits, which isn't bad. Now, let's look at them more thoroughly. So once again, Aquarius and Thief, as well as self-imprint for crit chance. That alone makes it very unique and very oppressive. There is no known 5-star Thief Aquarius. The only 4-star I can recall is Assassin's Sid. But what makes them really oppressive is how impactful their base stats are, which is 132 base speed. It is currently the highest speed imprint, or not imprint, base speed if we don't consider Zio's and his combat readiness shenanigans. And that alone makes her, or makes them, one of the oppressive units so far in the game. So if we look at through their skills, their S1, it's kind of hard to read through all of these, but I'll read through some of them. Half Moon Slash acquires 1 soul. When we're on Rhianna is the older sister here on the right side, I believe. I might be wrong. Attacks the enemy with a dagger, inflicting erosion for 2 turns. And a critical hit will detonate erosion effects inflicted on the target. So erosion is the new debuff introduced through RNL. And what it says here, if you can see it in the screen, at the start of the turn, suffers damage equivalent 5% of the lost health. This effect is doubled when applied to heroes. So 10%, and it's scaling depending on the health loss. So you're thinking, who does this go to? This goes to units with practically almost every unit, to be frank. And what we can glean from here is that it's pretty important to go for some crit chance whenever you play RNL, and it's helpful that they have their own self-imprint, which is 18%, which is a lot. So when we're in Luciella, after granting increased attack to the caster for 1 turn, attacks the enemy with a dagger and absorbs some of the damage as health. So we can see just from these descriptors how each of them play, right? So RNL, even from the artifact, tells us that this character heavily utilizes the fact that they can go extra turns and that they can swap each other. So we'll go to how they play in skill 2, I believe, or skill 3. And it really impacts how their playstyle is typically is. But what we can get from here is that on Rhianna's side, she does a lot of damage. Luciella's side does a lot of effects and has some utility for the unit. So skill 2, Hunter's Mark. Rhianna attacks the enemy, dispelling 2 buffs before inflicting bind and decreases the defense. So Death Break, that's really important. For 2 turns. Swaps with Luciella and grants extra turn. After attacking, when the target has a debuff, Luciella activates Waning Moon / as an extra attack. So just for a preface, what happens here is that once you hit the debuff, right, Death Break especially, and Bind. So if you're going for units that are very heavy in counterattacks, let's say Mort for example, if you hit the Bind and then you hit the Death Break, Luciella comes in and then just hits them like a truck. And because they are primarily a DPS character, right, you can expect big amounts of damage in their hand, and you're not going to be punished from it. So when we're on Luciella and you do skill 2, after granting increased attack for 3 turns, or don't forget, increased attack on S1, increased attack on S2. This one's 3 turns. So we can see how throughout the entire gameplay, we're managing to upkeep the increased attack. Attacks the enemy, swaps with Rhianna and grants an extra turn. After attacking, when the target's health is 50% or less, Rhianna activates Half Moon Slash as an extra attack. So this is another additional extra attack over here. And it has the same conditions whenever we do certain amounts of damage, we do an extra attack. And that's pretty impressive. So we can see the combination from skill 2 and skill 1, right? Skill 1 expedites the amount of damage we can deal through the use of erosion. And then for Luciella's side over here, when we have less HP, we activate an extra attack. So the combination and the thought is that we're lowering the HP of the enemy, and then we're exacerbating the amount of damage that we can eventually do as their HP goes down. So this is really an oppressive kit. And honestly, from the things I've seen, you can see that they're also being heavily used, not heavily per se. There are some mechanics and some sticks that they can do where they're one of the better options, or have seen to be an option when it comes to PvE. So S2 gets the Soul Burn effect, which consumes 20 souls. Rhianna ignores F-Res, so we can do bind the defense. And Luciella gets increased damage dealt. Not too special, not too unique. Skill 3, Pursuit of Death. Acquires 3 souls, has a 4-turn cooldown, originally 5. Rhianna Luciella launches a coordinate attack. Luciella attacks all enemies when the target is hero, ignores damage sharing. So damage sharing is for units, for knights that have, like, for example, more notably Orius, or they have items that skill passives that enable to share damage. This is more commonly seen like characters like Armin, Crimson Armin, Albedo, and more recently Estelle. But you're really more known. It's a really known mechanic when it comes to Orius. So Rhianna dispels 2 buffs from all enemies, very important, before inflicting fear. So once again, we have another unit with inflicting fear, and this could be an issue, and it could be very oppressive. Grants a barrier proportional to attack to the caster for 3 turns. 1 butterflies after him will retain throughout the battle. So, a lot of things going on here. First, let's go through it. Ignore damage sharing. This lets us deal a lot of damage when it comes to especially things like Arena, GVG, and RTA, of course. A lot of units, a lot of teams, and a lot of players definitely use and utilize damage sharing mechanics through their knights. And having this allows RNL to ignore that very important mechanic in our gaming in the world of epicseven, right? Not to mention that they do Dispel plus Fear, Grand Barrier. The barrier is okay, not too important in my opinion. But the one thing that's very key here is a unique passive. One Butterflies After Dream, which is a unique effect, increases evasion by 70%. 70%. That's a lot. That's one of the highest in the game. And that's just the first effect. At the start of the first battle, increases Rhianna's effectiveness and Luciella's crit damage amount by 30% with speed. Effectiveness, and more importantly, crit damage 30% with speed. So we have a base unit that has 132 base speed, right? And they get the damage multiplier the faster they are. So from this, what we can glean and what we can gather here is that you want them to be fast, you want them to hit hard, you want them to crit, and you want a little bit of effectiveness if that's how you plan to build them. So here's the best that I can do. I'm not a fast player, but it does utilize some of the things that I mentioned over here. First and foremost, hit chance, penetration set, HP set if you don't mind, immunity, all those are fine. The more important thing here is that you're trying to pump up the speed. I've seen people with 332, I've seen people with 334 speed RNLs, and I can only dream about hitting those kinds of speeds. But the priority stat here is hitting your speed as fast as you can while still being able to get as much crit chance as possible. And of course, in relation with the amount of crit chance you have to get hit a certain ratio, of course, of balancing out the crit damage and attack. And if you have some extra stats, throw some over at effectiveness. Why not? So they're quite simple to build in that kind of aspect. So one thing to consider is that there's multiple things that you can go for RNL's artifact. The more notable one is going for Shepherd of the Hollow. No, sorry, not Shepherd of the Hollow. Violent Talisman. Increases attack 8% and evasion by 8% and stacks up to 3 times. On, I believe this 6% or 5% on plus 15. But for plus 18 over here, I'm already hitting 94% of evasion and having 24% additional increased attack, and this really helps in the damage output. In plus 30, I know you can hit like 100% evasion, I believe. So once again, one interesting thing and one of the better things that they've updated here in epicseven as of recent is getting the plus 15 friendship over here. Very important, very important. This is an animated lobby and I haven't gotten it since I'm still farming. And that's pretty much it. Let's look at their animation and how they play. Thief, dark. Wow, look at this lobby art, man. Very impressive. So I've said here, on 6 stars Awakened, we hit 132 speed. Their offensive stats skyrocket a bit. They're 5% base crit chance over here, but it increases plus 18, so it becomes 53% crit chance. So it's quite easy to hit a lot of their stats. But the most important thing is trying to get as much speed as possible. So what I've seen most people do, let's show the animations, yeah. Skill 1 over here. This is for Rhianna, I think, or sir Luciella. So if we hit skill 2 over here, this swaps over to Luciella and then gets an extra attack because we did the skill 2 on Rhianna's side. This is her skill 3 animation. So the
Mission complete.
so it's really good against units that have a lot of counterattacks, right? And they really benefit in units that also have like pretty high amounts of HP so far. And in GVG, they really are one of the more useful and one of the most utilized units as of the moment, especially in like arena if we're talking about clearing things. So as a player, do I recommend owning RNL? The easiest answer I would say is yes. They have one of the most unique passive as of the moment in epicseven, and frankly in a lot of gacha games or this type of games, wherein we have sort of two types of kits, but the thing here is that they swap around it's the first characters that we have that swap around between two units. So don't forget guys, the banner's about to end. 2 days, and frankly I'd say you guys should pull it. But of course, you should pull units that you want and that you favor. And this is still no different, but in my opinion, you should pull for it. So that's it for the video guys. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.